Welcome to the amazing world.
Learn about the changes that took place after the October Revolution. What were the changes that the Bolsheviks brought after the October Revolution? Did Lenin fulfill the April thesis? Yes, but how? Was, as we know, the Bolshevik opposed private property. So first they declared land as social property, and as soon as they declared land as social property, peasants were allowed to seize the land of the nobility. So they fulfilled one of their demands, land to be transferred to the peasants. The second was that they took over ownership and management. And as they had mentioned, banks to be nationalized, now they nationalized industries and banks by November 1917. The other change after the October Revolution was to bring about equality. To bring about equality, they first looked at housing and said that houses have to be partitioned according to the size of the family. If you look at this house, it was the house of a rich industrialist or a rich peasant. Now, this house had to be divided according to the number of people living in that house, and the remaining part of the house would be given to those who do not have. If you look at this picture, you can see how the house is divided into 4 or 5 apartments. The other thing that they did to bring about equality was to ban the use of old titles of aristocracy: prince, count, baron. These titles were no more to be used after the October Revolution. The other change that came about was the uniform for the army and the officials. The change was mainly in the hat that they used was now known as the Soviet hat, which had the emblem of the Bolshevik Party. Apart from that, as Lenin always demanded for the change in the name of the Bolshevik Party from the Russian Socialist Democratic Workers' Party to be renamed, and it was done after the October Revolution as the Russian Communist Party. After the revolution, we know that the Bolsheviks brought a lot of changes, but did the government work well? What happened? Were the people happy? Let us understand here. In November 1917, the Bolsheviks conducted an election to the Constituent Assembly, but the Constituent Assembly, the Bolsheviks did not gain majority, and as a result, there was constant conflict between the Bolsheviks and the Constituent Assembly. A time came when, in January 1918, the Assembly rejected the Bolshevik measures because they felt they were too repressive on certain measures. And as a result, in January 1918, Lenin dismissed the assembly, giving 2 reasons. One, that the Russian Congress of Soviets was more democratic. And secondly, the assembly was elected in an uncertain condition. It was not a very favorable condition, in other words, in November 1917 when the election was held and when they came in minority. So he gave these 2 reasons for dissolving the assembly in January 1918. In the earlier slide, we learned that Lenin had dissolved parliament, but by March 1918, Despite the opposition of the political allies, Lenin, that is the Bolsheviks, made peace with Germany at Brest-Litovsk. This was one of the third demands of that Lenin made in the April thesis, and so we see that Lenin fulfilled all the April theses, nationalizing banks, stopping war, and peasants getting back the land from the nobility. After the October Revolution and the years to come, we seen how the Bolsheviks became the only party that participated in the elections to the All-Russian Congress of Soviets, and soon Russia came to be known as the one-party state. That means there were no other parties who could stand in opposition to the Bolsheviks. And how were they able to do this? Was that they brought all the trade unions under party control and kept secret police like the Cheka First, the OGPU, and the NKVD. These secret police punished all those who criticized the Bolsheviks. And as a result, Russia became a one-party state. After the October Revolution, as the party was becoming a one-party state, writers and artists who rallied around the party because it stood for socialism and change were now worried and tensed with the measures that the Bolsheviks were taking. As a result, they were disillusioned because of censorship the party encouraged. And as a result, we see that though Lenin had fulfilled the April thesis and tried to bring about equality, there were also the negative points where no other party other than the Bolsheviks came to power in Russia after the October Revolution of 1917, and even censorship had increased all over Russia. To summarize, what happened after the October Revolution was that the Bolsheviks, who opposed private property, did declare land as social property. When they declared land as social property, they allowed the peasants to seize the land of the nobility and took ownership and management, and nationalized industries and banks by November 1917. They, as land became social property, they partitioned large houses according to the size of the family and banned the use of old titles of aristocracy. New uniforms for the army and officials. The Soviet hat was introduced. The Bolshevik Party was renamed to the Russian Communist Party. Apart from this, by November 1917, the Bolsheviks conducted the election to the Constituent Assembly but did not have majority. In January 1918, the Assembly rejected Bolshevik measures, but Lenin immediately dissolved the Assembly on two factors, saying that the All-Russian Congress of Soviet was more democratic and the assembly was elected in an uncertain condition or unfavorable condition after the October Revolution. By March 1918, despite opposition of political allies, the Bolsheviks made peace with Germany at Brest-Litovsk. The Bolsheviks became the only party that participated in the elections to the All-Russian Congress of Soviets. They did this by keeping the trade unions under party control and secret police to punish all those who criticize the Bolsheviks. But people like artists and writers who rallied around the party in the early stages that stood for socialism and change. Now, many young artists and writers were delusioned because of the censorship encouraged by the party. As a result, we see that the October Revolution did fulfill the April thesis, but did have also the negative part where they increased censorship and a one party state evolved in Russia. Thank you and see you in the next video.